My code has officially been changed to syntax 3RR, so if you feel like using it, go ahead and update it, and if you don't feel like using it, then I guess you're already good to go. Hey everyone, this is Syntax, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how you can earn coins from killing zombies. Super simple trick, let's get into it. Really quickly, shout out to Sunday CW for explaining to me how this mechanic worked. If you look up videos on how to do this, some older videos will pop up. It's a bit of a hassle, it's a more complicated mechanic, and it's less reliable. This is a more simplified version, and it's much more optimal. So yeah, let's get into it. Now for my particular design, I have a mutator zone, but you don't have to have a mutator zone, only if your game is buggy. But the devices you will need are a mutator zone, a creature manager, a player reference device, an item granter, a creature spawner, a spawn pad, and a trigger if you have the mutator zone. Otherwise, just those other ones. Now, the reason I have a mutator zone is because sometimes player spawn plates and player spawn pads don't actually send a signal when you start the game, even though there is this option when player spawn transmit on. It just isn't consistent, and I don't know if it's like that for anyone else, but for my maps I know it doesn't always send a signal, so I just use a mutator zone that replaces this whole mechanic. But if you need to, you can use this and have it send a signal and then have it send a signal to the rest of the devices. Anyway, go ahead and take your mutator zone and set it up how you wish, as long as the player is fully encompassed in it on game start, and of course it affects players. You're just going to want to have this send on a channel, so for me that is on player, entering zone, transmit on channel 1. Now I am taking that signal and sending it through a middleman trigger, which all of this of course is turned off. It can only trigger once. Its delay is 1 second. Delay is important. Do make it 1 second if you are using this method. Turn all this stuff off. You don't need any of it, and have it trigger when receiving from 1, and when triggered, send on the next channel. So for me, that's 2. Next 3 devices you can find in the devices category. You just gotta search around for them. But if we go to the creature manager, you can customize your creatures however you wish. You can have it be whatever type of creature you want. Just make sure that the score for your creature is 1. It actually doesn't have to be 1. It just has to be a score. But make the score distribution all to killer. I don't know why it was on default. It all goes to killer. Make that all to killer. After the creature manager is set up, you want to go ahead over to this customized creature spawner and just make sure it's spawning the type of creature you have. So for me, that's fiend. And again, depending on your map, you're going to want to mess around with these settings. I'm not going to explain exactly what they do, but just set them up how you want them. Now, back to using channels, we have a player reference device. Now, this thing is extremely interesting. It's one of the newer devices, and it's what we're going to be using to assign players to track the score to give us gold, if that makes sense. Doesn't really matter how you set it up. What you want to make sure is that we are tracking the stat of score. You can have it set to eliminated, eliminations, none. Make sure it is on score. Set it to no for the track game total for stats, and activate by sequencers obviously is turned off. Now, you're going to register the player when receiving from that trigger, and this obviously is where you would replace that with when player spawn to transmit on, but like I said, it's not consistent and it's unreliable, so I have it sending through a middleman trigger, so when that trigger goes off, it assigns the player to this specific player reference. Then you want to head all the way down to the option where it says when tracked stat changed, transmit on, and have that send on another channel or just the following channel. So for me, that's channel 3. What this is looking for is when our score changes, it's going to send a signal, which is, if you could guess, what we're using to grant ourselves the gold. Now, next to that, you want to have an item granter with however much gold you want per kill. So for me, I just have 5 gold in here, and make sure it's granting when receiving from 3. Or I guess not 3, whatever channel you have it set up on. Make sure it's enabled on game start. Make sure the receiving players is only the triggering player. You don't want to give this to all the players. Make sure you're keeping all your items. Grant the current item, of course. Grant on cycle, doesn't really matter. Equip granted item to first item, of course. Don't give extra ammo, and well, that's the entire mechanic. Just to run you through it one more time, you are spawning into this mutator zone. It is sending a signal to a trigger that is then sending a signal to assign a player to this player reference device. Once you are assigned to this particular player reference device, it's going to look for an update in your score, which of course comes from killing our zombies, and when it receives that update, it's sending a signal on channel 3, which is going to grant the player coins. And if you set all of that up properly, you should have a system that looks something like this. So here we go. I'm going to have my fiend spawn in here. Pay attention to my coins in the right there. If I shoot this fiend, you will see that I am granted 5 coins. And of course, this is true for every fiend after the first one. One thing I do want to say about this design is if you kill multiple zombies at once, it doesn't see your score registering as different numbers, and unfortunately, you will only be granted the amount of coins worth killing one zombie, which kind of sucks. So like if I killed 4 with an explosive, it would only give me 5 coins, which is the only downside. But I mean, it's not that bad of a downside. I mean, it kind of is, but like, you just get over it. Oh, I guess all the creatures spawned. So yeah, that's the mechanic. Anyway guys, there you have it. That is how you can create a system where killing zombies grants the players coins. Super simple, amazing for zombies map. I used it in my last zombies map, and it is extremely easy to set up. Remember, if you have more than one player, of course, you can just repeat this process. It only takes 3 channels with this method, and if you're using the when player spawn to transmit on, it only takes 2 channels. But yeah, anyway guys, I hope this video helped you out, and yeah, this has been Syntax. Later.